So if you want to rock around the clock, then come with me to the New East Block. Yeah, come on down to Krakow.
So we're sitting in the Passage Mall with Alex Carlin, well-known songwriter, vocalist, and guitarist. Well, I would say multi-instrumentalist, if
Well.
I may say so.
That's true. You can call an interview a musical experience as well, so let's go.
Let's rock.
Let's rock.
Alex, I'd like to ask you. People say that Moscow is good for business and Saint Petersburg for artistic inspiration. Is this true?
You know, it's amazing how much truth there is to that crazy statement, because I have a lot of fun in Moscow. I do all kinds of amazing things there. I love Moscow. But it's the moment I arrive in St. Petersburg, it's like, boom, it's like, I'm in St. Petersburg again. And it happens every time, like within hours, I'm in a situation where I'm in some jam session or I was at a school just 2 days ago giving a little lesson to this, because my friend was teaching there. He said, Alex, come and, teach for 30 minutes but it turned into some completely creative thing. We did some normal school teaching, and then it turned into this jam session with all kinds of creative, inspirational things going on. It's hard to describe to people, but there's some magic in this city of St. Petersburg that it's just explosive. It just happens every day. Something wild, something that's even more out of the normal routine than, almost, I'd say, any other city. It's amazing to me every time, every day in St. Petersburg. Something magical, something creative, something that pushes you into writing a new song or into developing your music or into that part of your brain, sort of the creative section of your brain gets activated in St. Petersburg more than any other city. And it was always sort of a joke almost to me, like people said it, well, Moscow's the serious city and St. Petersburg's the crazy city, but I had to live it to really understand that, and it's actually, there's a lot of truth to that.
Mm-hmm. And what is that so inspiring?
Well, it's hard to, it's just,
here.
yeah, it's everything together. Of course, it's the people, it's the atmosphere, it's something that's built for many years, maybe from Peter the Great, maybe from the very beginning. Who knows, But they've done a good job of keeping the city, there's some continuity from the very beginning. This city was built, only 400 or 500 years ago. Which is a long time for an American city, but for European, it's pretty new. And it's preserved a lot of that magic, that medieval magic. It's really amazing.
I see.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to ask you about our differences and things in common we have, because I see our countries both being multicultural, sharing much more common than means.
Well, multicultural, yes, but completely different groups of cultures. I mean, what does Russia have? Russia has, of course, people from the Asian countries, the Central Asian countries, those kind of multicultural things, which I really appreciate. I'd say my best friends in Moscow are people from Buryati, people from Ulan-Ude. There's this whole multicultural, but in America, it's completely different, cultures we're talking about when you talk about multi, you're talking about people from Africa, from Asia, from Mexico, the whole world did come to America at some point. And Americans are very lucky for that. And that's why rock and roll was created. That's why all the best things, but it's a completely different mix. So I would say that, the thing that does my world, you can ask me about Russians, but who do I hang out with? Who do I mix with in Russia? Well, mostly people in bars who are playing music, who are, rock and roll kind of Russians. And that is definitely a similarity. There is the way Russians kind of, can relate to music. It clearly reminds me of, of some of my American friends, there's no question, but there's big differences,
In expressing self or...
The what?
In expressing themselves or...
Well, no, the expression is not so, it's because America is set up so differently. For example, New York is wild and it's 24 hours and it's crazy. But a lot of America is really, the bars close at, really early at night, and I'm a night person. And American cities are set up with a lot of suburbs, a lot of just people trying to be quiet, and there's no center of a city. And so in other words, America is fantastic for the music and fantastic for, I call it the United States of rock and roll. It has so much music and it's created it, and it still is a place where people, you hand anybody walking down the street in America a guitar and they can play it great. It seems like, it's this kind of talent. Whereas in Russia, it's a completely different mix of things. But in Russia, like Saint Petersburg, the bars don't close. You know what I mean? Like, I can have my normal life. I can leave my house at midnight and have a great time. And this is when I come alive, after midnight. Mm-hmm. You can't do that in California you can if you have your friends in Malibu with a big house and you have a big party, of course. But just the normal walking out of your house in California, the bars are all closed. Mm-hmm. It's a conservative, controlled environment, and this makes the whole thing different. So when I come to Russia, it's like, I feel like, first of all, it's great, and I just feel a big relaxation of all, my defense systems. Everything is like ready to go, when I come to Russia. America's a lot more like you have to push to find your environment, mm-hmm. a little bit more, because it's so suburban and so controlled. Mm-hmm. Like in America, they want the big TV, the big car, and the job with money, but what are you going to spend it on? It's like you're going to spend it on what the TV tells you, which is just propaganda. So Russia has their own set of circumstances. But I find in Russia, I'm hanging out with the 24-hour Russian party people, and it's like, St. Petersburg is great, there's no question.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So it's pretty comfy for you to stay here.
Well, the minute I cross the border into Russia, I just feel great. And I feel like I'm at home. I feel like I'm coming home almost at this point. So it's interesting. I feel like an American, like a California kid, but at the same time, I'm more alien over there. To me, I'm almost like a foreigner when I go to America now compared to how I feel when I'm in Russia. I feel more like I'm a native Russian these days. I don't know. It's just from the great experiences I've had.
So
perhaps.
Russia has some rock and roll vibes.
Well, actually, that's an interesting point, because in America, think about when rock and roll started. It was like after World War II, things were changing. The black music, the white music, all this sort of sociological things going on. You could go to Alabama, Mississippi and play and have incredible musicians everywhere. But partly it was the changing of the society. Well, that's all over in America. In America, now it's, unfortunately, you can find that, but unfortunately it's more like McDonald's, Burger King, and But if you come to Russia, you're going to find a changing society, people coming out of the Soviet Union, people coming out of a different social situation, and things are changing, and that makes for more of a rock and roll, like you say, vibe, or a rock and roll atmosphere. And so I find that that's what's happening in the East Bloc. Czech Republic, Poland, Macedonia, Kosovo, Serbia, these incredible countries, and of course Russia and the Ukraine and the Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan. All these places have this changing social situation, which makes the music more, it's sort of more alive in some ways, the situations. So there's some connection between that changing society and rock and roll. There is a connection to that.
Absolutely, I agree on that.
So,
and I believe that conservative, how to say it, way of life kind of gives a push to
when you break out of it. Yes, when you break out of that, you want to rock, maybe it's something like that. But it's funny. But Russians are ready.
That's how it's happened in the U.S. and that's how it's happened in Russia back in Soviet times.
There's a lot of that. But at the same time, of course, I take the train every day to another city, mostly in Siberia, the Far East. So I'm traveling through the old Russia that hasn't changed really necessarily. Like you're going through the country and you see the buildings and you can imagine these people have not changed for 300 years, So it depends on who we're talking about, But every city will have a rock club or a bar or something where the people who do love, rock and roll or AC/DC or the Ramones or something, or Victor Tsoi, they come together. And there is a common thing, For example, there's a Harrods pub. They have pubs in every city of Russia almost now. And they're sort of an oasis of rock and roll. This pub called Harrods. It's some genius guy in Irkutsk created this. How McDonald's has franchises, but that's evil to me. McDonald's is like evil. It's like, we don't want that to be the representative of America. We want rock and roll to be the thing, right? So Harrods, this guy from Irkutsk, created a whole franchise where every city they can have a rock club. Just to give you an example of the thing that brings America and Russia together, maybe, is the music.
Is the music, yes, just what
Could
I
be,
wanted to know.
It can be. It can break the walls down and get people to just be people, you know, which is...
Since you've mentioned Viktor Tsoi,
Yeah.
I'm curious.
He's from here, right?
Absolutely. I'm curious about your opinion on Russian rock since it's pretty young in comparison with American one.
Well, I mean, it's a completely different thing, you know. It's like...
Yes.
And
it's not something classy.
Well, I mean, the thing about when Russian bands sound Russian is when I like them. You know, if they want to sound American, it's probably not the best idea. You know, well, I mean, you can do it, but it's not necessarily in their blood. Like, you know, but there's a lot of great Russian bands, like who have this sort of gypsy or Eastern European melodic kind of driving thing that has these different kinds of chord progressions and different kinds of melodies that I find really inspiring and have a lot of energy. And Viktor Tsoi is his own style. I mean, he's a very strong poet and a very strong, you know, he's got his kind of rhythm and his kind of his mood, you know, and he sets the mood right away. You know, it's Viktor Tsoi, and he talks about things that Russians want to hear about. You know, he has an incredible communication with Russian people. I know people who just love him so much, you know, and I do too. You know, I think he's definitely a great musician, and he was an actor, and he did all this great acting stuff, and he had a way to put forward his image, you know, really good. I think I'm a big fan. I used to say Viktor Tsoi, my Geroi, you know, because he's really, and I recorded his song Mama Anarchia, which I think Mama Anarchia is an all-time great rock song. Any band in any country could do a version of Mama Anarchia by Viktor Tsoi, and it would sound like a hit. You know, it's like, it's got a perfect melody, it's perfectly constructed rock song. So, you know, if you talk about worldwide historical hits of rock and roll, the Beatles and, you know, whatever you want to say, Viktor Tsoi has one. You know, he's got one right there, and there's no song better than Mama Anarchia. You know, it's at the top level. Really.
I see why you like it, actually.
I think so.
So you value the lyrics not less than music?
No, all of them. You know, it's funny, like American rock and roll, that you have to understand, when we were growing up as kids with American rock and roll, the lyrics were the last thing. It's like, I mean, there's certain songs where the lyrics are important, but generally speaking, it's the music and it's fun and all that stuff. But you come to Eastern Europe, I was touring in a lot of countries in Eastern Europe, and one thing we noticed when we were in our van in like Poland or Czech Republic or Slovakia, when you come to these cities and they almost come up to you and they say, "What is your text?" Which means, where are you at, you know, politically or, you know, such. It was like they want to know, what is your text? And it's like, in America, you would never say that. It was like, what do you mean? I mean, what do you care? You know, we're just rocking, you know. But in the Eastern Europe, it's like, well, where do you come down on these positions? Or, you know, something like, because it was part of their struggle, you know, I understand it. But it's a very different perspective on rock and roll. It's in America, it's much more for fun.
Yeah, it's more about partying.
Yeah, more about partying.
Thinking.
It's more about, the thing is that, okay, you can have those things, but it's on the side.
You need to relax sometimes.
It has its own place, but it's, you know, Bob Dylan can be wonderful text, but he's also not too serious. You have to understand, it needs some kind of sense of humor. Bob Dylan has a great sense of humor, but he has a lot of words and a lot of serious stuff you could interpret. But he's not just seriously pontificating about something. You know, he's making interesting, you know, text. He is.
So talking about differences, Russians seem to be more strict, more serious.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. See, I don't really have my style of rock and roll, or what I enjoy is definitely closer to the fun side in terms of, I'll give you an example. Like, there's certain bands that are just perfectly not too serious and not too comedy, but right in the middle. For example, AC/DC. Their lyrics. Ozzy Osbourne, you know, Motorhead, the Ramones, the Beatles even. There's a sense of humor. It's not too serious, but it's not too like a joke, you know? It's sort of right down the... It's sort of a line that's really hard to define, but I think that's what I like, you know. Nirvana, Kurt Cobain's like that. You know, he's just nailing it, you know? Because the bands are all, when they start singing about, oh, my father did this, or I have a problem with that. I don't care. You know, it's like it's okay, but it's not what I want to hear about in my rock. When I listen to rock music, it's not really my deal, you know.
So you care most about energy and about drive, and
Yeah, and fun. It's like it's hard to define it. Of course, energy, of course, drive, and but there's a whole musical aspect of that. It has to do with how you play with your band and how the drums and the rhythm of your everything, you know, is grooving, you know. And Americans were lucky to grow up with, you know, black music and country music and the whole thing that happened in America with all the musicians from Mexico or wherever they came from. There's a whole group, a whole mix in America that happened in the 1950s and 60s that gave all the Americans this fantastic musical, you know, concept that you just get into your blood without even knowing it. You know, Eastern Europe is a different mix, you know, but America has this drive, there's no question about it, you know, from that powerful musical, you know, history. Little Richard, like listen to the band, put on anything by Little Richard and listen to the drummer and the bass, listen to how they play. And, you know, they're getting that from the blues and from jazz or whatever they're getting it from. They're just on fire with it, but it's musical. It's not just random. It's some kind of musical, you know, development that happened in America and that we were lucky enough. And then the bands like the Beatles and Led Zeppelin, they learned from that.
That's it. I also think that in rock music, in American rock music, there is exactly music that influenced this new genre. You know,
well, yeah, it's so based on real music.
It's poetry that influenced developing rock
well, yeah,
music back in Soviet
well, the
times.
beauty is that the Russians and everybody can appreciate all kinds of aspects of that, and they can bring in their own stuff, you know. But it is accessible to everybody. I mean, if AC/DC played tomorrow at the airport in Moscow, there would be 1 million people there. What does that mean? You know, even though rock and roll is sort of down in the world of, you know, disco or whatever, hip hop or whatever you want to call it, the genres, it's still, you know, if Guns N' Roses, if some rock band played in Saint Petersburg, there'd be 1 million people there, you know. So there is, you know, this power of this American music, even if it goes through Australia or goes through England.
We've been waiting for your musicians for so long. So.
Yeah, well, that's another thing. That's true. They're afraid to come here, but you know, it's like it's a little bit of, you know, to get that visa, you know, you gotta hassle, you know. But it's I don't know. I think, but the internet means anybody can listen to anything.
Absolutely, but
you know,
it's different from listening live. So.
Yeah, well, absolutely true. That's a very good point. Now, I wanted to ask you a question because I noticed you're extremely beautiful. And it's not this normal corporate beauty that we see in, you know, the standard big money magazines or something. I'm seeing something special, and I want you to talk a little bit about where you're getting your inspiration for your unique direction in beauty. Because I know you're involved with, the reason I'm saying it is I know you're involved with fashion, and I know you're involved with that as a kind of a business. So tell me a little bit about where that's coming from, that development.
With pleasure. First of all, thank you much for your kind compliment. It means a lot to me because I believe that the one who sees through things actually kind of builds this beauty. So
that's right. See through it. That's important.
Yes.
The depth.
Because I've never cared about corporational images, beauty and style. Never followed them. And never was interested. What I was interested was art, painting.
So that's what you're involved in, of course.
Yes. Talking about fashion, for me, fashion is haute couture, it's avant-garde. That's what we see on catwalk by, I don't know, Mugler, Galliano, McQueen, and so on. So it's more about art than about anything
That's a good point.
That's well sold, let's say so.
And you go out in the world and you find and discover your models. Is that true?
Absolutely, and also music genres and music subculture influence my style a lot.
But you've developed your eye for this, what you want. You find them all over St. Petersburg and you bring them into your studio and you photograph them? Is that what you're doing?
Oh, not only photograph, we're shooting a video right now for the project The Hidden Beauty. and hopefully it will
Yeah.
arrive
Uh-huh.
if we'll raise enough money through the fundraising. So we are making a video for it now.
But
kind
to
of promotional.
To some extent, it just depends on your ability to find the people.
Absolutely, they're
Yeah.
not models. They're just
Yes, you find real people.
Yes, I wouldn't say regular. You said it right, real people.
And then you go-
Absolutely out of model.
And
people.
then you kind of develop them a little bit.
Yes,
with your team.
Just make them shine brighter.
Right,
Because
very
they
good,
already
very good.
have that shine inside of them.
Very good. Wow, wow.
And they,
And-
I'd like to show
Yeah.
that models can be pretty
Yeah.
intellectual. That
Yeah.
it's more than just some, I don't know, doll or some mannequin.
Right, right, right.
For me, model
right.
is kind of more like an artist. I don't know, like an actor. Because
Yeah.
model also helps to create an image
Yeah.
along with designer.
Yeah. Right. So right now you're working on developing it into a presence on the internet.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Hopefully, people will find it.
What's the
interesting.
name if I want my friend to look it up and Google it or something? What would the Google search whatever be?
The Hidden Beauty.
Can you spell it?
The Hidden Beauty. Yes.
Hidden Beauty.
Hidden Beauty. Yes.
Hidden Beauty. Wow,
Yes.
I like that. Hidden
Thank
Beauty.
you.
That's good.
It's like actually in Russian it sounds a bit different.
Yeah. What would it be in
Hidden
Russian?
Ускользающая красота. So
Хорошо.
it's kind of a boat to Bertolucci.
Bertolucci.
Yeah, in
Wow.
Russian it's a boat to Bertolucci.
Wow, video you've filmed.
But I wanted to sound it differently in English. So
right.
the names are a bit differently, like in cinematography when you
Ah.
show some movie in a different country, you may change the name a bit
Mhm.
when you want to screen it.
That's great. Okay, well, I think the next time my band, Alex Carlin Band, by the way, I do have a band.
Oh, I know
With
it.
Andrei
It's pretty
Samoylov.
awesome band.
Andrei Samoylov, who lives in Petersburg originally, his
Mm-hmm.
brother's Pyotr from Elisa, he's from around here.
Yeah.
And Denis Matuisa, originally from Belarus, but he lives
Mm-hmm,
in Moscow. So the next time we play here, maybe, I don't know if there's any way we can combine our forces, but if there was a correct venue like Jagger or someplace where you could do a little presentation, we should look into that, for the future, or at least minimum for a
awesome.
video приглашение, a video invitation, we could maybe do something. That might be really
That
nice.
would be awesome because
Yeah.
I want the show to be more
Yeah.
cinematographic. Than
Right. So let's not forget that. Okay. Be
And I
great.
like to see a different, how to say it, art spheres intermingling.
Mhm.
So music,
Yes,
dancing,
yes.
juggling, performing, modeling, anything.
No, it's really good. So let's see. Where are we at now?
Where we are?
Where are we at?
Where we are?
We are in St.
We're in
Petersburg.
St. Petersburg, yes, in
What
one
i-
of the oldest malls of the city, where Dostoevsky
Really?
performed. Yes.
Who
yes.
performed?
Dostoevsky. Fyodor Dostoevsky.
Dostoevsky
Yes.
was reading here?
Yes.
No.
Yes. and
Like reading his poem or some kind of short
Mhm.
story or
Yes,
something?
Yes.
That's amazing. I love
Not
that.
only him, but well,
Yeah, but Dostoevsky
among
is,
those
it's
whom you
nobody
know.
better. Yeah, I love Dostoevsky. Yeah.
and now I see
Wow.
why he likes
Like he might have been standing
Petersburg,
on
because
on this spot, like to people down.
I'm not sure
Yeah,
where
okay.
exactly he was
Doesn't
standing.
matter.
I know that on the third floor there used to be flats,
Oh,
living rooms. Yes.
that's interesting.
Yes,
Wow.
there was bank and a mall and flats, and
Wow.
theater. Well, it's still there, but the lights are
Yeah.
off now. So yes.
I like to walk
There are
around-
No place today.
I like to walk around St. Petersburg as if I'm Raskolnikov and following what I read in the book.
So
you
you
know.
followed his.
Well, a little bit. In that character does come alive for me, definitely. Raskolnikov, Rodion Raskolnikov. He reminds me of an American too. In some ways, I mean, he just has that story. Is so modern in a sense. I mean, it surpasses the 19th century, definitely. it's
Absolutely agree.
unbelievable.
I believe that's why it's so
Yeah.
popular
Yeah.
nowadays.
But this whole city has still got the 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th. It's all alive here, which is interesting because, what can you say? Like, Russia, for me, is kind of this amazing thing. But I'm going to go next week. Actually, day after tomorrow, I go to Murmansk. My band has 3 concerts in Murmansk. And then after that, it's Chita, Blagoveshchensk, Birobidzhan, the Jewish Autonomous Region. So, I'm ready to go. It's like 13 time zones. I don't know how many time zones now, but so it's an adventure. The adventure is always in Russia.
What I wanted to ask you, most of all.
Oh, okay.
What firstly inspired you to visit Russia?
Wow, there's an actual.
Interest?
Well, I mean, it's always been since we were kids. The Russian kind of the evil empire of mysterious, beautiful
Evil
women,
empire.
and in American TV and American movies, it's always the evil, the dark side, which is attractive to everybody, who's a rock and roller, And so that always was in the back of my mind. And I always liked the sound of the accent if I saw, the Russian woman on the movie, The Spy or something, Spion. And then it sort of built on, the coolness of the culture. But then what happened was I was in Berlin right before the wall came down. And I had a chance to come to Moscow in 1989 for a week. And I had an acoustic guitar, and I asked the taxi driver where I should go play my acoustic guitar, and he took me to the Arbat. And one thing led to another. We had 7 days where every day we played music. I met the same people every day. We turned into kind of a group of friends, and people would throw us money, like rubles, which we collected in a bag. And when the sun went down in 1989, there was no light. There was no anything if you didn't know where the private club was, if you're just a normal person. So we took our money and went to the Hotel Belgrade and gave it to the girl working there who disappeared and came back with everything for a kvartirnik, like vodka, bread, fish, and, Konstantin, you know what I'm talking about. And then we took it to somebody's kvartira, somebody's apartment, and we had a party all night. And then, we were just having a fantastic time every day and every night, playing music, meeting people, having incredibly interesting people, meeting on the Arbat. People who told me, oh, yes, I just go to a monastery and listen to the bells all night, or something. Just people saying, but in some accent, So it was very interesting. And I fell in love with Russia really immediately after 1 week. And then what happened was that week of playing on the Arbat led to the next step, because I was back in San Francisco, and there was a theater group called the Harlequin Theater, Arlequin. And the boss of the theater was Sergei Makonyan, and he came with his number 1 actor, who is Oleg Bernov. And they came to San Francisco because they had a crazy group of theater people, a crazy theater group of like 40 or 50 people they wanted to bring to America. So they were talking to the number 1 theater in San Francisco that happened to be where my mom was the director. And my mom said, hey, do you know this guy who was playing on the street? She told him the whole story. And Oleg Bernov said, oh, you mean that guy? And he knew me. And that led to our meeting. And Sergei Makonyan invited my band to Soviet Union for a 6-month tour with work visas. We had our video on Dvazhdy Dva, commericals canal. We had everything for 6 months. We went to, Ukrainsky SSR all the way. We went to through the Ukraine down to Odessa. We played in Kiev, Zhytomyr, Vinnytsia. We played in Nizhny Tagil with the huge concerts with banners of Marx and Lenin and Engels and everything. And then we played in all the way to Baikal. And we had this unbelievable 6 months in the Soviet Union. And after that, there was no way. I mean, I just knew Russia was the greatest place, but it took me a while to start coming back. But I did eventually.
So you already knew that you'll be coming
back? Yeah, I already knew I had to be in Russia. That was my main deal.
I see. And maybe you have some most inspiring place here in Saint Petersburg.
Well, it's funny. I'm going there soon. I love Petersburg for inspiration, but there's one other city that I tell people, honestly, if they ask me, what cities stand out, really as being, like you say, special inspiration. And for me, it's Blagoveshchensk. Blagoveshchensk is unbelievable.
Why so?
It's unbelievable. It's like, of course, it's interesting because there's the river Amur with China on one side. It's interesting, but it's the people. Once again, it's the people. They have so much rock energy there. Like they have bike clubs, biker bars, and I'm playing, and everybody's for some reason is on fire in Blagoveshchensk. They're just on fire, and the people who organize my shows, the guy called Yuri Borodai, a really good friend of mine now. He's been organizing all of my activities there. He just does it so naturally and so smoothly, and everything just happens naturally, but with a lot of excitement and energy. And people, there's always a party and an after party and a party after that, in some place. It just never ends, and there's a lot of energy there, and it's, who would know, who would guess? But Blagoveshchensk is a very special place.
So that's your favorite city?
I would say, but Petersburg might be, really, honestly, if I had to be in one place, it would probably be Petersburg. Well, it would probably be Petersburg and Moscow. I love Moscow. I love Sevastopol. I love a lot of places. I really love,
so absolutely different cities. Still like them the same? I mean, absolutely different cities.
There's
the vibe, the culture.
Extremely different. They all have their own completely different aspects. I really like, Vladivostok. I like Vladikavkaz. I like, but Omsk is kind of my home, really, because I have more friends in Omsk than anywhere, maybe.
How can you explain it?
Well, when I go to Omsk, it's like my base. On my social media, I used to put my home is Omsk. That was just what I put on VKontakte and stuff. Because so many great friends there. And when I get there, it's just like I'm just back home, and just everything happens around. We recorded there many songs in a studio called USSR Studios. And there was Sergei Usov and, with Schmidt.
So our record studios and all
I record everywhere. Right now I'm recording at Asinsky Studios of Valentin Asinsky in Moscow. It's just, I record wherever I am, but I'm just saying that Omsk turns out to be a real center for me. And from there, it's kind of the center of Russia. I go down to Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan. I go up to Surgut or Nizhny Novgorod. Exactly.
We're moving around.
The far, Dальний Vostok, the Far East, and then I go back to the Ural. Actually, I have a great manager named Nikita in Ufa. So Ufa, I have this sort of also a lot going on in the Ural, the Ekaterinburg, a lot of friends. So I'm developing a lot of friends in a lot of places, but it's natural. But there's a lot. That's the thing about Russia. It's so big.
Since you know so many people from so different cities of Russia.
But they all kind of move around too. It's sort of funny. It's like you'll meet people. I just met this great guy from Chelyabinsk, and from Omsk. They just moved here. So you just meet people that you first meet in the Far East, and then they're here in Saint Petersburg living. But you're connected.
And can you guess where they came from?
Well, by looking at them, sometimes you can tell somebody from Khabarovsk. You can. Like Khabarovsk is a special place, and I have a lot of great friends now from Khabarovsk.
You have friends everywhere in Russia, I assume.
Well, that's what we're saying. It's like, what can we do? We don't want World War III, right? We want just
Absolutely.
Russians and Americans to know each other better. Really.
Yes, and for some very short period we had pretty good relations.
Yeah, for a couple of days.
Better than nothing.
Yeah. I think we can we can figure this out, Maybe we need a common enemy. Maybe like we used to have Hitler.
Yes,
maybe we can have разрушение климата or some climate enemy.
Helps, yes.
Let's fix the climate, together. I don't know. We have to do something, or Iraq or something. I don't know. But somehow or other, I'm an optimist that America and Russia are gonna be really good friends.
Hopefully, because I don't see any problem when I speak to Americans. I don't see any aggression.
Oh no. That's what I'm saying. People ask me, what's it like in Russia? I can't think of one Russian who didn't like me because I'm American or something. It's never happened,
I would be surprised if it did, yeah.
I can't think of one time that happened. People get a little irritated at American, military policy or something, but they don't blame me for it. It's like,
Absolutely.
Should we wrap this things up here? Is it?
Oh yes.
How do we do that?
I was sad that we have 15 minutes before.
The whole place closes.
Yes, before.
All right, we're shutting down another bar. All right, I like that. We close all the bars, right? And then we go to the next one.
Absolutely.
So that'll be good. We can party all night tonight, definitely. I've got some friends.
I'm not sure about guys.
Come with us. We already have 3 or 4 friends who have been. We're gonna meet for the next party. Yeah, go down to Doomsky, Doomskaya.
Oh,
Go down to Chort Pabari or Banka Soundbar.
I mean, notorious.
Yeah, notorious places.
So you like that underground vibe? And
Yeah, of course. But that's I'm waiting for people to take me to the high class places, but we'll see. Maybe I'll wait for.
Maybe I will do it someday. If we'll start with our project.
But it always works out one way or the other.
So
Definitely.
nothing will shock you, at least here.
Всё, что не делать,
everything.
всё, что не делается, делается к лучшему.
You know our saying.
I wrote a song with that
Oh.
title as well. I believe it. That's amazing thing that everything that happens is actually for the best. In some mystical way, it works out that way.
That's a very optimistic point of view.
So what does that mean? Yeah, it's
I
a
believe
Russian.
that's
It's a
exactly
Russian
what
spirit,
helps
though.
you
It's
keep going. For
Yeah,
so
it
many
keep-
years.
Yeah, but it's sort of an indication of the Russian spirit is so strong. Like they were not defeated by Hitler, by World War I, by World War II, by the Cold War, by Stalin, and the farms collectivization killing 30 million people. Russians are still going strong. It's like nothing stops them.
Same as you do.
So that's
You
it's
also
impressive.
have lots of struggles.
Yeah, but I think nothing.
I believe that's what unites us.
Yeah, nothing is going to stop us from partying tonight. We will party till dawn.
And on that note,
Yeah, so wonderful, great.
I'd like to thank you
Good.
for the interview,
Hidden
for-
beauty is
for
out in the
coming
open.
to Russia for so many years.
Yes. Well,
For-
where else?
for Beautiful music you bring us.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay.
For the inspiration, of course.
All
For your
right.
positive vibes.
All
They
right.
spread all around.
We can do it. Can do American attitude.
Thank you so much, Alex.
All right, конечно.
Hopefully we'll soon meet again.
Конечно. 100%. По-любому.
And wish you the best of luck with your documentary.
Взаимно.
That's an awesome thing that you decided to shoot such a movie. That means a lot. Not only to me, I believe, but to many Russians. Like to be represented in some new way.
Yeah, well, absolutely. That needs to be. Americans see only one thing about Russia. They see a picture of Putin, at a press conference or something. That's the only information they have about Russia. They don't have any information coming in.
Mm-hmm.
There's this zero information about Russia that goes to America. So we need to bring some more, anything, anything would help. And hopefully what we're doing with this interview or anything else.
I believe that movie will be popular in Russia
Yeah.
as well, because we also
we're making
get
a movie, so
not that
let's
much
do
information.
it, yeah.
Not that
Reality
much real
show.
information.
Alex Carlin riding the Russian rock and roll railroad to the next town. Let's go to Murmansk. Come on, Murmansk. You're going with me.
To Murmansk?
She's
Okay,
going with me,
Murmansk
right?
it
To
is
Murmansk. Let's go. Okay.
Well, we're going for the tickets, I guess.
I could see you, but you can't see me. My Shelby more, little girl, my heart beats for. You know that I adore how I wish you were mine. La 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 la. La 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 la. встречая земля. Достоевский, привет! Йодор. Постой, паровоз, не стучите колеса. Тормозки на тормоза. Маленький родной, полно и голодный. Спешу показаться на глаза. Маленький родной, полно и голодный. Спешу показаться на глаза. Все, что не делается, делается к лучшему. Все, что не делается, делается к лучшему. Даже если твой концерт отменили, даже если менты тебя избили, я так рад, что свободно живу я в России. Я так рад, что свободно живу я в России. Все, что тебе нужно сейчас, возможно, ты возьми. I'm so glad that I'm living in Russia today.